Hey, welcome to the first review video that I'm doing for this channel. I decided to do this because I know you guys ain't looking at this shit, and I figured it's about time I started making actual YouTube videos anyway. So what movie did I decide to choose first? What movie's gonna be the launching review for this channel? Oh no. Now before we get started, let me just say, I'm not the biggest fan of the original Injustice story. It had a lot of good moments, I'll give it that, but the story just dragged way too long for me. I hated the overuse of killing characters for shock value, especially the popular ones, and some characters that didn't die, I wanted to die because they were written incorrectly, in my opinion. So when this movie got announced, I was a little interested, but very cautious. I thought this would have been a good opportunity to tighten up the story a bit, as well as make some changes that could help with the overall plot. But let's face it, this movie was doomed from the start. They were trying to fit all of this into one movie, and that's the first problem this movie has. The pacing is just all over the damn place. The original Injustice story is so large and goes to almost every corner of the DC universe that I knew this movie was just not going to be able to compete with. That story has Batman and Superman going to war with each other for years, but you never feel that in this movie because it feels like it takes place in the span of 3 days.
Clark, how are you?
Angry.
That is your right.
No.
Every big event from the comic is just rushed and you never feel the weight of anything significant. Remember when Nightwing fucking died?
Hey! Robin doesn't punch people after they go fetal. You're not Robin, so shut up!
Yeah, that's one of the most emotional scenes from the story, and they just brushed right past it in the movie. No slow walk out of Arkham, no big emotional reaction out of Batman. Hell, they don't even let the emotional weight of this scene hit you and let it be silent like it did in the comic, but instead they just interrupt it with more dialogue that kills the mood of the scene. Speaking of Nightwing's death, the movie doesn't really handle death all that well. Most of the characters that die in this movie are treated not as important as or just forgotten about altogether. Green Arrow, the Atom, Hawkman, Cyborg, and yes, I can't forget about the Flash. I really don't understand the point of changing this. The Flash is one of the most important and interesting parts of the original comic. His moral battle between which side he should choose was so engaging, and you were pretty much behind him more than Batman and Superman half the time. The only reason I can think of as to why they would make this change is because they know how important the Flash is to the original story, but they knew that they couldn't live up to that since this movie is only an hour and 30 minutes long. The amount of disrespect this scene has alone is just insane. They disrespect the original story by killing off one of its most important characters and then replacing him with fucking Mr. Terrific. They disrespect the character himself by killing him in the first 5 minutes and then never mentioning him ever again. And they disrespect the people who wanted to see the original story be animated and got this mess. This might also be a nitpick, but I really don't like the art style. The animation itself is decent, but the way the characters are drawn just look really cheap. The bold black outlines around everyone and the edges all the characters have in their design make it look like a Newgrounds animation. I mean, look at Catwoman's fucking chin, what's going on there?
The nigga chin!
They also did something weird with everyone's knuckles. I don't really understand, like, how to explain it, but they kind of raised up everyone's knuckles on their hands and they filled it in with black. It looks like everyone's wearing flesh-covered gloves or something. It looks fucking weird. This movie just leaves so many things from the original story. It's probably not even worth mentioning since it's kinda obvious that it would cut out so many things. I don't think I could tell you how annoying it is that they left out Black Canary, Harley being a real hero, the Lantern War, Sinestro, John Constantine, Good Guy Luthor, Alfred being a badass, the Teen Titans, the Super Pills, Darkseid, Bizarro, that badass fight with Captain Atom, and so many other details. Wait, what was I talking about? This movie just has the weirdest changes from the original story that don't really serve anything. Like, what purpose is having only John Kent being Superman's last living parent? It doesn't do anything. I thought they were going to use that as an emotional moment when he accidentally dies and Superman is now left alone with no living family. That could have pushed him to the edge and made him even more insane, but they don't do anything with that. He pretty much acts the same after that moment. What's the point of removing the rock that kills Nightwing? That small little detail just makes the event feel more like an accident so that Damian Wayne isn't totally to blame and we have some sort of moral dilemma there. But no, let's just have Damian really kill Nightwing so he can have a redemption arc by the end of the movie. Ra's al Ghul is just shoehorned in from Injustice Comic 2, and he's just there to serve as a second antagonist, which I pretty much didn't like in both the comic and the movie, if I'm being honest. Like, all of these changes is just what happens when you try to fit 6+ years worth of story into one movie. You come out with an incomplete and just ugly looking mess. In saying that though, there are a few changes that I like that the movie did. And when I say some, I mean 3. One of them is how they treated Nightwing. I cannot recall what Nightwing did in the original comic after he died. I know he turns into a ghoul and then he meets Batman for a scene and then he leaves. That's it. So this movie, they actually make him do something somewhat important. Since the story is so much smaller than the original, it gives him a lot more linear sort of objective, which is to give Damian Wayne a half-assed redemption arc, let's just say. It's not the best, but it's something at least. The next change I like is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is the worst character in the original story, by far. She enables Superman to become a dictator throughout the whole thing just because she wants to sleep with him and thinks she has a chance out that Lois is dead. This is just so out of character for her in my opinion, and I hate it so much. She is selfish and manipulative, and I swear she's more evil at the start of the story than how Superman is at the end of the story. In the movie, she still does this at the start, but throughout the movie, she gradually realizes what Superman is becoming, and by the end, she stands against him. It's not perfect, and yes, I would have preferred if she just wasn't written like that at all, but it's a lot better than how she was in the comic. And the last change I liked is with Superman. That ending is so much better than how it's supposed to end in the comic. I think the canon ending is Batman's ending where they just lock him in that Red Sun prison, and they sort of do that here, but they do it in a completely different way that I like way more. I hate evil Superman. I hate it so much. And by Superman, I mean Clark Kent. I'm open to evil versions of Superman like Omni-Man and Homelander because they offer more unique storytelling elements, but when it's Clark Kent, I just can't take it seriously. In my mind, Clark Kent is the most genuine and hopeful characters in the DC universe. I can never see Clark Kent turning to the dark side unless it's straight up mind control. So when I was reading Injustice, I could sort of get behind Clark Kent becoming insane and evil. You know, he kills his own wife, that could drive anyone crazy. But I'd at least have him be a little more rational than how he turns out. So when he literally fries Shazam for no reason, that's when I lost interest in that version of Superman. In the movie, however, he actually decides to surrender because he changes his mind. Seeing his wife from another dimension is the only believable solution to stopping him besides just full-on killing him. This is a way better conclusion in my opinion than just Batman putting on kryptonite armor and beating up Clark Kent until he passes out. It's more believable that Superman would actually do this instead of just turning full-on evil. Ironically, the poor pacing and the short runtime of this movie actually helped this conclusion even more. Since the movie's so short, we never get to fully see Superman becoming that evil, so this reaction is more believable. Despite those little changes though, this movie still sucks. It's a mess. You can just tell it's a mess without even watching it. Now, I don't usually like to compare superhero movies to their comic book stories, because I feel like they're a little unfair and I would go insane. Movies like the MCU and DCEU are more taking inspiration from the comic books and using their stories to tell their own ones, for better or for worse. This situation, however, is very different. This is a full-on animated movie of the comic, or at least it's supposed to be. It should have been so easy to just look at the pages and animate it. Why they restricted themselves to wrap 6 years worth of storytelling into one movie is beyond me. I saw a lot of people saying that they would have preferred a TV show or an animated show instead of just one movie, and yeah, I agree. I felt like this story worked way better episodically instead of just putting it all into 1 or 2 movies. So why didn't they just do that? I will never know. I gotta give this movie a 3. It is poo 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 poo.